Alright, this is Ben with the DIY Homefront, and I'm going to rotate my tires on my Ford F-150. I just did the calculations. It's been about 17,000 miles since I bought the tires, so it's definitely time to rotate them. The front tires go to the back, and they switch sides in the process. So let's get to it. First, I've got to find a spot to put the jack so I can jack up the front wheels. This is one part of the jobs on rotating the tires that I really don't like. It's hard to find a good spot to put the jack. You can't jack it up by the frame because the suspension has so much travel in it that my jack can't get it up high enough for the tire to come off. And I never really like jacking underneath the strut mount or the shock, but I don't know of any other place really to put the jack. Long story short, I just make the best of it and try to be as safe as I can. I saw something move out of the corner of my eye, and then I saw the outline. There's a little lizard right there. Can you see it? Because I'm not really happy with where I've got the car jacked up, I'm going to make sure that I put a jack stand underneath it. And I'll move this around 2 or 3 times until I feel like I've got it in a good spot, so that way if it were to fall off of the jack, instead of the truck resting on me or the ground, it would end up resting on the jack stand, preventing injuries or damage. I've got a specialized impact socket with a nylon sleeve designed for taking off lug nuts. This is designed to keep from messing up your rims. It can spin and that stays still. I'll be using my Craftsman 19.2 volt half-inch impact driver to take off these lug nuts. And I've had it for a long time, when you actually went to a mall and bought it at a Sears store. So if I've gone 17,000 miles since I bought the tires, that means it's been 17,000 miles since I washed the inside of the tire rims. So as part of this process, I'm going to go ahead and clean the inside of these rims. With one quick jerk, I should be able to get this tire off, and I'll move it to the back of the truck on the opposite side. This is a jack out of my wife's Kia Optima, and I thought I would try it to see how it worked. However, I don't know if it's going to be able to lift my 22-inch rims on this truck all the way off the ground. We'll just have to see. I've forgotten how much work and how limited these factory jacks are. This one is at its highest level. And you can see, even then, it's just barely getting the tire off of the ground. I think the tire's high enough I can pull it off the truck though. And once again, I'm going to put a jack stand underneath the truck, just in case. And just like the front tire, I'll loosen all these lug nuts up with my impact driver, take the lug nuts off, and get this wheel off the truck. I had forgotten how big my truck tires were compared to my wife's Kia Optima. And they are dirty. I'll be using a Meguiar's detergent that's designed for automotive paint and a Meguiar's tire rim cleaner that's designed for tires. I'll put about 1/3 of a cup of detergent in the bucket and fill the bucket up about 1/4 of the way with water. The wheel cleaner helps break down the brake dust that gets on the rims, and it really makes cleaning the rims a lot easier for no other reason than that. After letting it sit for a few minutes, I clean the rubber part of the wheel with a soft bristle nylon brush. Then I move on to washing the rims. And I've got a microfiber washcloth I use. And I use this washcloth only on the rims. And the reason why is because the brake dust can get embedded into the microfibers, which can actually scratch your paint. I don't know if there's much you can do about it on the rims, because they're covered in brake dust anyway. But I wouldn't want to use this on my paint job and leave little scratches everywhere. It's really hard to get the brake dust off the rim, so I'm going to use my soft bristled nylon brush on the back side of the rim. Even if it leaves some small scratches, that's still better than being covered with black brake dust. I used to clean the inside of the rims when I washed the truck, but I stopped doing that. I stopped doing that on all of my cars. All I ever ended up with was some hurt hands and I could never get it all, and you'd see these spots that were clean and spots that weren't. So I just clean the outside of the rims, and I just let the inside be what it'll be until I rotate the tires. Well, it took about 30 minutes to get this one all the way clean. And now that we've got it rinsed off, you can see how good it looks. So that was one of the front tires, and it's always got a lot more brake dust on it because most of the braking done by a vehicle is done by the front wheels. And I believe that's because the engine usually is in the front, which means all the weight's over the front wheels. It's not very easy, but you can get these center caps off of these rims by hand. But once the center cap was off, it was time to do the same thing again. Spray them down, scrub the tires, clean the rims, flip the tire over, spray it down, scrub the tire, clean the rim, kill a yellow fly that's biting me. Yes, that's right, a yellow fly. I hate these things. But it's dead. It's not going to bite me again. And then rinse the tire off. Now I'll set these off to the side to dry for a few minutes before I wax them. I'll use some Meguiar's ceramic wax to protect these rims. I'll put a little bit on the spokes and then work it into the rim with a microfiber pad. After I get all of the front of the rim, I'll flip it over and do the back side. I'll wipe off any residue and buff the rims with a microfiber cloth. The center caps get the same treatment. I'll put some wax on with this pad and then buff it off with a cloth. Alright, now that I've got the tire cleaned and waxed, it's time to put it on. And this tire and wheel was on the front passenger side, and I'm going to mount it on the rear driver's side. The tire and the rim put together are pretty heavy, and it's awfully awkward trying to line it up. I think if the rear axle was a little bit higher off the ground, that would make it easier also. Once you have one lug nut started, the rest of them are pretty easy. You can always use your impact wrench to sort of snug up the wheel. Not tighten it all the way, but just snug it up, and then you can get all your other lug nuts on. Once you have all the lug nuts on, you want to tighten them up in a crisscross fashion. You don't want to start on one and then go around in a circular motion. It puts a lot of stress on the metal. However, it is okay to do that circular motion when you're just going back and making sure that they're all nice and tight. I'll give this a quick little wipe down. Then I'll put some wax on the center cap and then buff that off. And it just gets put in place with one good swift hit with your hand. I'll remove the jack stand and then I'll lower the truck back onto the driveway. I put away the Kia Optima jack and went and got a floor jack, and I'll jack up the passenger side rear wheel and make sure I've got the jack stand in a good place. Now that the passenger side rear tire's in the air, I'll use my impact driver and take all the lug nuts off, put them safely off to the side, and get the tire off. If you're struggling to get the center caps off of your wheels, you can always take a hammer and use the handle and gently tap it out. It works just as well and doesn't require as much strength. This is the passenger side rear tire, and like I said, the rear tires simply just move to the front, so they stay on the same side. But the front tires end up crossing over. So that means every time you rotate your tires, at least two of them are going to be switching sides, which is supposed to make sure that they all wear evenly. After I got this rim rinsed off, I grabbed a bottle of water. And the rim was dry by the time I finished that bottle of water. So I went ahead and got out the wax and waxed it and buffed the rim. As long as I was at it, I thought I'd go ahead and clean up the calipers too. So I'm going to put some more of the tire cleaner on there, and I'm using that because it's designed to help break down brake dust. This is one of the rear wheels, and it's really not all that dirty. So it looks like it got cleaned up well enough with the nylon brush. I'll just rinse it off and we can move to the front. The front calipers are a lot dirtier than the back ones were, but we'll do the same thing. We've been to North Carolina and driven the Blue Ridge Parkway in this truck, and there's a lot of steep grades. I'm sure the brakes have gotten a pretty good workout from those trips. That definitely makes a big difference. After I get the front and back of the rim coated with ceramic wax, I'll buff everything up before I put it on, and that includes the center cap. There we go. You'll always want to put the lug nuts on by hand, or at least start them by hand before you use the impact driver. If you put them in the impact driver and try to put them on, you can actually cross thread them. That will ruin the threads that are on the stud. Now it's time to remove the jack stand and the floor jack. And I could probably use a creeper if I didn't have running boards on this truck. I like this model of floor jack because it has a long handle attached to it, which makes it a lot easier to move it around the vehicle. Floor jacks are very stable, so I'm not worried about the truck falling off of it, but they can lose pressure and lower. So the jack stand is there to catch the truck in case it starts to lower some. With the truck jacked up, I can go ahead and take off this last tire and clean the brake calipers. But while I was doing this, I noticed something wiggling around. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but that lizard from earlier was actually in the cooling fins of the disc brake rotor. One little lizard. Well, after I let the lizard go, I went ahead and cleaned the brake calipers, and then I cleaned the tire and the rim and waxed it, so now it's ready to go back on the truck. And this front driver's side tire will end up being on the back passenger side of the vehicle. And after I get all these lug nuts tightened up, I'll clean this last wheel and we can put that on the front. I've been going all day, so the battery died right when I was washing the last tire. And here I'm mounting the last tire on the front of the truck. The only thing I have to say is be careful. I leaned forward and hit my head on the bottom of the truck. So there's a little bit of blood on the side of my face, and that's where it came from. So there you go. The tires have been rotated. It probably would be a lot quicker if I didn't have to wash them and wax them, but I choose to do that, and I'm glad I do. I think the next time I do this, I'm just going to jack the back of the truck up and put it on jack stands before I even mess with the front tires. At any rate, thanks for watching. Be careful. Like, subscribe, check out my playlist, and I'll see you in another video.